all killer, no filler this week on Flower Club. You've got the most beautiful and premium flowers. There's not even any foliage in it this week. So this particular design is following trends at the moment from about 2021. Flower trends started to head towards having no foliage in designs, and that's certainly something we still see today. No foliage, all killer, no filler, just gorgeous flowers today. What's in the box? First we've got daffodils, beautiful delicate poppies, and tulips. So first things first, as soon as we open our box, we get our flowers ready. What I want you to do is do a little bit of prep work. And by doing so, just grab your tulips out of their plastic and see how these are really soft and they're kind of like facing downways. The way you get them to do that is by taking them out of the water completely, and then they lose that integrity in the stem, so they just become quite floppy. That's okay, that's actually what we want them to do. So it'll take about 4 to 5 hours. So just do a little bit of prep work before. Just literally just means grabbing your flowers out of the box, sort of like this, and then just put them on the kitchen bench or somewhere out of the water and let them dry and let them just kind of go floppy. So yeah, I'd say between 4 to 5 hours. So we'll design with the tulips in this state, so really floppy, very loose in the integrity of the stem. But we know that when it hits the water again, they're going to continue to drink and they'll rehydrate, and that stem will become quite strong again. And so you'll get that lovely curve of the shape because of the floppiness that you created with dehydrating them. And then they'll sort of flick back towards the light because tulips are phototropic, which just means that they grow towards the light. In today's Flower Club, we've got beautiful tulips, and I want to show some stages of tulips that you will experience as the flowers grow throughout the week. First things first, they'll come wrapped in the sleeve, and they'll look like this or a variation of this. So flowers continue to develop their colour after they're cut. Sometimes you can't even tell what colour flowers are going to develop into because they're so fresh. So these ones we can see, they've developed their colour a little bit because they're not super brand new. We've had them in the fridge since for about 2 days. So we've got beautiful, beautiful and very premium, expensive tulip flowers in the Flower Club box this week. And I wanted to show the lifespan and just the stages of life of a tulip in its initial phases. So we've got straight from the grower, super, super fresh tulips. Sometimes it's very hard to tell what colour a tulip is going to develop into because tulips develop their colour as the days roll on. And this is an example of that. So you can sort of see this is an example of the tulip colour here, super, super fresh before it's developed. That's actually the same as this one, but it just hasn't developed its colour yet. This is an example of the pink. I would sort of describe this as a medium pink. Fresh from the grower, it looks like this. Then as 2 days go, so this is 2 days from when we've received it, that's an example of how much the colour develops over 2 days, and this is an example of an orange one, so it's a little bit different. And then what we've done here is what I wanted to show you today. This is how you get them to curve. So after about 5 to 7 days, you'll notice they'll continue to grow towards the light. So what we're going to do is prep our tulips beforehand, and we're also going to prep our daffodils beforehand. So these are some poppies, tulips that I've prepped ahead of time. As you can see, they've got the shape already in the stems. In terms of the daffodils, we need to prep these at least 1 hour beforehand. And what we're going to do is just trim off the stems because these are in the same family as the early cheer. You'll know from prepping the early cheer, we need to just trim the stems and then let the sap of the daffodils or the early cheer run through into a separate vase because the sap actually affects the longevity of all of the flowers in the arrangement. So we don't want the sap in the final vase. We just have the sap in like a secondary vase. And just for at least 1 hour, just let the sap all run down. With our poppies, Again, if you've received a previous flower club, then you'll know how to prep your poppies. So basically we just take off the elastic, give the ends a bit of a trim, boil your kettle, and then with boiling hot water, we just want to sear the stems. So just for like 30 seconds. Don't put them in a glass vase or a ceramic vase because you might be at risk of the ceramic or the glass vase breaking with the boiling water. Searing the stems of a poppy actually just releases that piece of sap that naturally accumulates at the end of the stem, and it just kind of releases it and softens it. So once the poppies go into the final vase, they'll be able to drink and be hydrated. The sap won't prevent that from happening. What we'll notice is that they'll just go a little bit discolored at the base of the stem, but don't worry about that. It doesn't impact the integrity of the stem. So we've prepped our tulips, we've prepped our daffodils, and we've prepped our poppies. Well, there's a lot of homework to do today before we get to designing, but we're ready to go. Today we're going to be working into this beautiful white ceramic vase. If you've ordered it, you may also have this little bit of chicken wire. So chicken wire is a technique that I learned when I was studying in New York. So in New York, they're very, very, very much all about sustainability. So just this square of chicken wire, that's the perfect amount. And then we're just going to sort of curve it into this shape and squeeze it down into the vase like that. If it pokes out the top of your vase, totally fine. It'll just kind of naturally foof down. And then that's going to hold our stems in place and create sort of more like a structured grid. And when we're using this technique of no foliage, it's a really good way of keeping your flowers into position. So I'm going to start with the tallest daffodils, and I'm going to sort of start in the middle of the vase. A pro tip is to go through two rings of your chicken wire mesh. So don't just go through one. If you can. We'll just hold it a bit stronger into position. So these daffodils have a little bit of a mind of their own. So sometimes I just kind of put them in and then tweak the position later. Alrighty, so I'm just putting them in towards just the side of the vase. And I know it's tempting, but don't let them sit on the shelf here. Try to get your stem to go all the way to the bottom of the vase. It's just for design integrity. If you put the stem all the way to the bottom of the vase, that design will hold a little bit stronger. If your stem is just sitting here, you're more at risk of the design sort of like flopping, or some of the stems flopping where you don't really want it to go. I want my design to be exactly how I intended it to be. That's just me though, because I'm just going to leave a couple there for when I do the finishing touches. So next in my vase, so once you've had your tulips sitting out of water and they've like completely lost the integrity of the stem, they should be like super, super floppy like this. So you're just left with that like really soft floppy tulip. These are ones I prepared earlier. Then I took them out of water again this morning, but they haven't fully lost their integrity of the stem, so they're still a little bit stiff. Nonetheless, we'll use them anyway. So what I wanted to do is just have them cascading over the edge of the vase. I'm gonna cut off quite a bit of stem, and just remembering that it will continue to grow. No matter what we'll cut off, it will grow in the coming days. What I'm doing here is I'm just measuring my stem length against where I want it to sit in the vase. So say for example, I sort of want it to sit maybe just a fraction higher than this tulip here. So I'm just measuring it up, and then I might just trim to about there, a couple of inches off, and then just see where that goes. And remembering yours might just completely cascade. Mine's still got a little bit of stiffness, which is not ideal for this. And you can see that position, that's looking quite good there. Depending on how you feel about your design, it might be the case that you take your stems out of the vase, and just the ones that are too long, you might snip those down to size and you're happy with them staying short, or you might just enjoy them just naturally kind of growing towards the light. Me personally, I do want to look at it and love it every single time. I don't sort of want it to go crazy and wild. So what I would personally do is probably take out the crazy wild stems that are doing their own thing and not sitting perfectly. I would sort of take out some of them and snip them down to size and reposition them in the design. So you can sort of see how this is going, but again, you won't necessarily have that kicking up moment until a couple of days afterwards. So my tulips here are just going to dance kind of at the front, and remember yours are going to cascade down. If they look different, that's why. Yours, after a couple of days, the stems will rehydrate and they'll just kind of kick back up. I've got just a couple of daffodils sitting here, and I've got a couple of tulips sitting here, so I might just do finishing touches with the last of these. In your flower box, you've got these gorgeous, amazing poppies. All killer, no filler this week. Let's start with the buds first, and let's just put these buds anywhere at all. Remembering that we've already trimmed the stems, so we don't want to trim them again because we want to keep as much height as we possibly can. I love putting the buds in first because then it just creates more of a grid for the rest of the poppies to sit in your vase and just be quite stable when you're positioning them. Here's my buds, all just like creating that beautiful moment, and I'm sort of spacing them out as well, sort of not clustering them as tightly as you might see the daffodils being clustered. I'm actually spacing them out a little bit more because poppies are absolutely huge and beautiful and stunning. Leave some space for them to really open and to shine. Wow, look at that. Oh my God, so incredible. What really inspired us with this Flower Club selection of flowers is springtime, more sunshine. It's not getting as dark as early, and it's getting brighter earlier in the mornings. We're all up super early, so we notice when the sunrise is waking up with us. That's why we've chosen all of these gorgeous bright sunrise colors. This is just, oh my goodness me, the most delicate, beautiful, whimsical design. I am just so in love. So you've got your daffodils kind of cascading out here. You're going to have your tulips just cascading and, yeah, as we say, growing towards the light as well. And then the poppies just dancing above with their beautiful ombre colour palette. I'm sort of in two minds. What do I do here? Because I've got a little bit of daffodil left over, I've got a little bit of tulip left over, and some poppy buds left over as well. What do I do? Do I just jam my vase, fill it full of flowers? And particularly being mindful, so this is front facing because I know where I put it against a wall. Do I put more flowers in, or do I show some restraint, design restraint, and just kind of like say, yeah, I'm loving it the way it is, just to have those lower level poppies burst open with colour in the coming days? Might sort of do a little bit of both. So I might add a little bit of colour just through the lower level with a daffodil, just a shorter daffodil or two. I think with my tulips, I actually don't think I'm going to use them all. You could even just cut those down and put them next to a bedside, or maybe like working from home desk. But I think that's where I'm going to land, showing a little bit of restraint. If you are planning to place your vase arrangement on the coffee table, this is going to be 360 design as opposed to a 180. So I've really shown just the 180 this time. But just be mindful, if you are going to pop it on the coffee table, it's a 360. So continue to turn yours around because you see that's the back, so you're only seeing stems. So when you're designing, I would just like keep twisting it. So you're looking at it at all angles and just using those same techniques that we were just talking about, using the same techniques but just in a 360. So still having your daffodils maybe cascade up one side and then cascade down the other, but twisting them like some front facing, some back facing. Here are my leftovers, so I'm going to pop these aside and just do a nice little bud vase working from home sort of arrangement for myself with these little leftovers. That's the final design. So that gorgeous, like so whimsical, so romantic, the cascading tulips, the height of the daffodils, and then the dancing sort of ombre poppies.